Hello, I'm Cindy Arenberg Seltzer, President and CEO of the Children's Services Council of Broward County. Welcome to another edition of Future First, Focus on Broward's Children. When we talk about the CSC, we often refer to the beginning of our mission statement to provide the leadership, advocacy, and resources necessary to enhance children's lives and empower them to become responsible, productive adults. We don't always highlight the equally important latter part of the statement, which refers to collaborative planning and funding of a continuum of quality care. Since the beginning of our operations, the CSC has provided support to those niche, smaller organizations that work closest with the communities they serve and are often best positioned to deliver quality services to them. With stronger infrastructure, board development, fiscal stability, and staff management, many organizations in Broward County could more effectively deliver on their missions and successfully apply for funds that can propel them to the next level. By connecting agencies that are growing their capacity with entities that provide effective training and support, the CSC supports strengthening service delivery and ultimately improving the lives of the children and families of Broward. Here with me to discuss the importance of building agency capacity are George Gadsden, nonprofit consultant with the Small Business Development Center, Rachel Ramjitan, Senior Impact Officer for Network for Good, Jacqueline Reed, President and CEO of Oasis of Hope, and Peter Caldes, President and CEO of Impact Broward. Each of these guests brings to the conversation the benefits of both providing and receiving capacity building support. Later in the program, we'll hear from representatives of a number of organizations who are currently developing their business model and are benefiting from CSC capacity building support. Welcome to all of you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So I tossed out this capacity building, and I explained a little bit, but really, some may wonder, why would CSC care? And I say, because if you're going to effectively serve children and families, your house needs to be in order. So what does that mean to you, Peter? When you think of capacity building, you've both received it, you provide it. What does it mean to you?
So thanks, Cindy. At Impact Broward, you're absolutely right. We both receive capacity building expertise as well as provide it. For us, in terms of the provision of capacity building, it's really about helping a nonprofit with the delivery of its service. And what I mean by that is, are we able to give them the tools, the expertise to be able to have that impact on the community that funders and the people that they're supporting are seeking out? And for us, it means, do we ourselves have our own house in order? And so one of the things that we offer is the Executive Service Corps program, which is our capacity building service, which relies on former senior executives from across the spectrum of sectors who are now retired and come in and help with the capacity building efforts of our nonprofits. We use them as well because we need help as well.
So oftentimes people will say, if only these nonprofits were run like a business, or they don't even realize that nonprofits are a business, you actually have those business executives that are helping them see it a little differently.
Exactly. For example, we have a former senior marketing executive from Bloomberg who is now retired and lives down here in South Florida, who is advising on telling a nonprofit story, understanding how communications and marketing works. We have finance experts, strategic planning experts, all from Fortune 500 companies who are now retired and helping those in the community in which they now live.
What a great way to retire. So Jacqueline, I think, sometimes some of the criticism and some of the question that we get, why are you helping? There's so many nonprofits now. We don't need so many nonprofits. But having agencies that really are close to the people that they're serving is really important. And I think you're one of those agencies that really comes from the community and is trying to help a special group. Talk a little bit about your organization and what you do and why you thought capacity building was important.
Well, thank you, Sydney. Thank you for this opportunity, because the opportunity to have this capacity building grant was great for us because we focused on the youth that are aging out of foster care, and this was a pretty new area for our nonprofit because We basically focus on affordable housing for all individuals, for low to moderate income and families. But when we targeted the population of youth that were aging out of foster care, that was very new for us. So the capacity building was very important to us, and it helped us to reach and to reach the community, because the young folks that are coming out of foster care need to go into a community and be accepted into that community. So we felt that the capacity grant, the capacity building would help us to reach the partners that we needed to reach the partners like Flight. Flight comes in, they refer the young folks to us, working with Handy. Handy, they send us the young folks that are pretty much trained and almost ready to go. But once they get there, the young folks, they don't really know what to do and how to act with a landlord, how to act in the community. So we want to use this capacity building opportunity to teach them how do they rent for the very first time.
That is so important for those that think there's just too many nonprofits, and you're sort of turning the corner a little bit on what you normally do. Affordable housing is a huge need. So having you focus on those kids aging out of foster care is so important, and making sure that you're able to do that effectively and connect to the network is fantastic. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Rachel, you've been part of our capacity building network, and what does that mean to you, a network for good? Speaking of networking.
At Network for Good, capacity building is our mission. So we see it in a multi-pronged approach. First, as nonprofits, we have a responsibility to our donors to make sure that we work with our resources that they've provided in an efficient way, and that we sustain the impact that their gifts have made possible. But we can only do that if we're financially stable. And with revenue sources changing very quickly, especially when we have organizations relying on government funding, sometimes funding sources dry up quickly. Maybe it's a foundation, maybe it's government. So at Network for Good, we partner with small to mid-sized nonprofits. We have about 125,000 customers around the country.
Wow.
And we help them to diversify their streams of revenue. We also help them to identify new funding sources, because we feel that they have a responsibility to donors to make sure that the impact is sustained. But the interesting part about Network for Good is we are a for-profit company owned by a nonprofit. And so all our profits go into a foundation, and then we make cooperative grants to funders like the Children's Services Council of Broward, who want to provide capacity building training to nonprofits in their area. So we're helping both funders and nonprofits individually, all for the same purpose, to make sure that they're there for the long term to serve their community, and to make sure donors' dollars are well invested.
That's fantastic. Now, George, you really are from an interesting organization, the Small Business Development Corporation. Tell us a little bit about what that is and what you do in the community.
Well, the Florida SBDC, we have an office here in Fort Lauderdale. Our primary focus is to help businesses grow and succeed, working with not-for-profits as well as for-profits, and providing in the not-for-profit arena the capacity building to helping them run their nonprofit as a business. And our saying to them is that although you may be designated by the Internal Revenue Service as a not-for-profit, at the end of the day, you've got to run it like a business so that you are in the black, and that you can stay in business to provide the services. So we look at it from an economic development standpoint in terms of providing the services to the not-for-profits so that they can sustain the services that they do, which ultimately impacts the community which they serve, kids as well as their families.
You know, one thing that struck me as I asked the question, because you deal with both for-profit and not-for-profit, would you call what you do capacity building when you do it for a for-profit organization?
In essence, yes, you would, because sometimes we work with startups, nonprofits, as well as for-profit startups, but individuals sometimes who've never, as a for-profit, been in business before, guide them through the maze of how to really run your business effectively. Sometimes the product or service that they are selling is a viable product or service. But if indeed they don't have the wherewithal to how to think in terms of your target market, how to think in terms of marketing effectively, those things can have an impact on the for-profit business and staying in business, and a service or a product they sell, they no longer can do it because they didn't run the business in the proper manner.
Right. It just struck me that I don't think I'd ever heard the term capacity building for for-profits, but it really is the same.
Correct.
The same thing.
Yes.
If you don't have an infrastructure that can survive in the long haul, you can't deliver your product or service, whether it's something you're trying to make money on or something where you're just trying to improve the public condition. Mm-hmm. So right now, I want to hear from Ms. Peaches Hunley of On Call Leadership, Patricia Zeiler of the Fort Lauderdale Historical Society, and Iola Smith of Tranquil Manor Foundation. Let's take a look at what they had to say about capacity building.
So my name is Ms. Peaches Huntley, and my organization is On Call Leadership Incorporated. My organization mentors at-risk youth ages 9 to 17 in the area of juvenile delinquency. We focus on the behaviors that will cause kids to, well, actually the root causes, that will cause kids to exhibit behaviors that could potentially drive them into a tight spot. And with the system or the judicial system, or either around here in the actual community, getting in trouble with some of the people and the property owners around here. So we create innovative projects that would redirect our youth into doing positive things. We want to see the giant come out of our youth, and I always say there's an inner giant. So that inner giant is hidden away because kids focus so much on trying to live and trying to survive like their parents. They don't realize that there's a gift that they have that can potentially bless the community. So these innovative projects are formed, such as Graffitize Not Vandalize. It's one where we combat vandalism. The subject matter is vandalism, but they do create art. They create art in using their self-expression, their own ideas, making sure that they get the community involved. And it gives them a sense of power, a sense of building their life skills to know that they are part of something. My organization has been around since 2007, but we weren't fully noticed until 2012. I have about maybe 50 to 75 kids in the program. So this program is a year-round program, and how it's structured is with the Graffitize Not Vandalize, we have 5 different places that my kids are doing murals right now, and finishing up on different murals. So what happens is they go into Art House, is one of our partners as well. We go into the Art House and we sit there and we think about what the theme could be. And that's just our thought. What the kids do is we go out into the community and we go to the property managers and we ask the property managers if we can have a meeting with the community. Once that's set up, maybe three out of 4 times we've had over 70 residents at those meetings, and those residents get a chance to tell us what they want to see. They don't want to see graffiti on the wall. They want to see something nice. They want to see something beautiful. And I can give you an example of one of the walls that they've had problems with, the Myers Estate wall on 24th and 8th in Franklin Park. That wall was vandalized because anytime they had some artists come out to do a mural on it, they said it looked sort of like graffiti. Well, we did ours, Make a Difference Day, with the city. And as of today, it has not been vandalized, not once. So the kids did a great job. So once the community tells the kids what they want, they'll go back to the drawing board and they'll do 3 sketches, and we send it to the property owners. When the property owners approve one of those sketches, then the artists, we set up an event because we want everybody to come out. So we do something like, we'll tell them this event is going to last for a whole week because we want to make sure we sketch, paint, and then we want to do the unveiling. So it's structured to give kids responsibility and accountability, but it's also structured in a way where they understand what community engagement is. In my moved to want to build capacity and want to make sure that I can have projects that are more sustainable, I decided to start taking some of the courses at CSC, such as human trafficking, to learn about kids in that essence and how that affects their lives. I've taken the cognitive behavioral. I've done the Undoing Racism, which Undoing Racism showed me a big part of me that didn't really understand what racism was, because we think we do, but we don't. And taking that class unveiled a whole lot for me. So I learned how to not only work in the capacity of the community, but also teach the kids what I know they're not being taught at home, because you don't just teach undoing racism. You don't teach racism. You just taught how to survive. So those classes have taught me to be a better me, but to go at it just a little bit harder. CSC helped me with the capacity building. I took a storytelling class, and that storytelling class, it stuck out so much to me, because I was saying to myself, sheesh, you gotta learn how to tell the story too. And there's things that you just don't know. So, and there's things that you want to do that you need some type of structure, some type of direction. So CSC has guided me and given me direction. They've also helped me understand how to write a grant. They've helped me understand how to write a proposal in just 3 pages. And because I used to think proposals were 14, 15, 75 pages. But they've helped me write proposals in 3 pages with less information, but just to the point. So that right there empowers me as a community activist, as somebody that a resident in the community trying to do something nice for the community, to keep moving forward and to want to progress. People don't usually, in my community, we don't usually trust outsiders, and that's what we call them, outsiders. But I can certainly say with the organizations that I formed relationships with, YMCA, Housing Authority, CSC has been a bigger part of my growing. They've helped me grow. So now I'm going to go help someone else grow.
My name is Patricia Zeiler. I'm Executive Director, Fort Lauderdale Historical Society. Well, Fort Lauderdale Historical Society preserves the stories of previous generations, the diversity of our community and the folks who built it, and presents that as an educational opportunity for present-day students and visitors to our museums and to tourists from all over the world. The story of a community is about the diversity and the hardships and the challenges that people overcame to build a town. And the really neat thing about Fort Lauderdale is that it wasn't just one group of people. We have to talk about our First Nation people who first settled our area, and the 400 African American gentlemen who came and built our railroad, and that was 1896, a very early time, and all of the other unique groups that had to work together to form a community. This organization is the oldest historical society in Broward County. We've been accumulating artifacts and letters and other gifts from the community for over 55 years. So we have this great collection of firsthand resources that talk about those people and the challenges they met. I came into the organization 3 years ago. It had some significant branding issues, some outreach issues in the community, and had not really presented a diverse story of history. And what Children's Services Council helped me do through the Small Business Development Council was a new branding opportunity, and just the opportunity to meet with those business experts and have them really dive into our business and tell me, here, do this, or try this, or which I wouldn't have thought of because they're experts. And I'm a nonprofit manager. I've done it for many years, but these are really high-level expert people that I wouldn't have access to. And so these high-level executives that assisted me with this agency, I would not have had opportunity to work with for free. To build capacity for the organization. It's a very unique gift from Children's Services Council. Over the past 2 years, we've increased visitation to the campus by 400%. The SBDC execs who worked with us helped us first of all to sort of refine our educational program and helped us craft modules that would be more diverse and more interesting to our students who come here to study. And then the branding effort helped us to we changed our Fort Lauderdale Historical Societies have this stuffy sort of sound to them. So now we're moving now in the direction they set us for History Fort Lauderdale, with the idea that this is the history of the entire greater Fort Lauderdale area, not just some stuffy place where people come and drink tea or something, you know. And then our educational programs have grown as well. And what we've managed to do on the education side is expand our opportunities for older students. When I first came, we had fourth graders exclusively. Now, like just this past week, you just missed them, we had a full 75 students in from Plantation High School that had a complete pioneer experience. And we bring in teaching artists, just as I did when I was at Cultural Division. So we had a teaching artist from the Seminole Nation. We use a Mesoamerican Hispanic teaching artist. So we've expanded. So the opportunities and educational opportunities we're offering to the students of Broward County has been expanded as well.
My name is Iola Smith. I am the president of Tranquil Manor Foundation. I'm also the executive director of our mentoring program, and it's called Mentoring with a Father's Heart. Well, research has shown, and we found, that boys thrive best in the presence of positive male figures. It could be their father, it could be uncle, it could be someone in the community that is caring, a caring adult. However, many of our boys in Broward County, their fathers are in jail or they are deported. And so they're left in the homes with only their mother and no real positive male role model. So I have decided, I'm retired, I'm a retired teacher, I'm also a retired registered dietitian, and I'm also a community health worker. So I have decided that this is how I want to spend my retirement, is to provide positive male role models in the lives of these boys who are affected. So what we do, we recruit men who are concerned about this problem too, and we do background checks on them. We do full background check. We also reference them. They have to provide 3 references, one from the job or a professional, one from a relative, and one from a friend. And so together we use the background check and the references, and we decide whether this person would be a suitable caring male adult for our mentees. Well, on the application, we ask, what the boys like to do and get a sort of profile of the boys. And on the application for the mentors, we ask the same questions. And so we look at the likes and so forth, and we match them with that as well. Also the age group that the mentors, we ask them what age group they would prefer to work with. And so we match them by age group too. Sometimes it's difficult, but we just go with our gut feeling and we match them because, maybe because of their cultural, and so, and many times it works out good. Maybe 80% of the time, we really get a good match. We approach schools in Central Broward because the need is very great in Central Broward. So we approach the guidance counselors, but we get permission from the school board, to put our flyers, in the window at the schools, speak to guidance counselors, and the guidance counselors will talk to the mothers when they come to meetings, And sometimes the mothers have to be brought in because of problems with the kids. And so when they come, the guidance counselor will say, here is a flyer. This organization, they do mentoring. Probably you should check it out. And, you know, and so the mothers will call me and said, you know, I have a boy. I want to get him out of my house. I believe he's going to get into trouble. He goes out, my son is only 15 years old. He goes out at night, evenings. He doesn't study, no homework. He comes home at 12 midnight. You know, I really want to get him out of the house. And then I'll say, well, we don't take them here. They don't live here. But what we can do is match them with a caring adult male who can become a friend, who can teach them the way of life, a better way of life, a better future. And so you can come in and fill out an application. Each year, we celebrate the anniversary of the program, and at that time, we honor the mentors because they're very difficult to find and to retain. So we honor them, and we have like a banquet or some type of social event where we invite people in Broward County to come to see what we're doing, to hear the boys perform. The last performance, our boy, we had one of our 14-year-old who was the master of ceremony, and he did so well. You know, he took over the whole show and did well. So CSC each year gives us $1,000. So they sponsor a part of the program, and which helps a lot because then when folks come to see what we do, they also give us donation. And from that, we are able, sometimes at one event that CSC helped to sponsor, we will sustain our organization for 6 months. We also get volunteers. Sometimes people sign up as mentors there. And so these events are very important. So CSC really help us to strengthen our capacity to continue the mentoring program by exposing us in, you know, online when you have an advertising platform on your website. I put my events there. Also, when they have the last function they had at the convention center, it was huge, maybe over 1,000 people were there, and I was able to pick up, I was invited to attend, and I was able to pick up my youth guest speaker for my event, which he did great. He's only 17 years old, and he was the guest speaker at the event. I was able to get Ely High School, I think they call it the GORD, a program they have there. And they led the national anthem there. And so the guests, they were so elated to see these young boys perform. And, you know, it was through CSC that I was able to get in contact and get connected to these schools and organizations that help us to put on our event.
So unfortunately, I can't ask them questions, but happily I have you here, Jackie. So tell us a little bit more about your experience with SBDC and what you got out of that.
Well, you know, when we applied for the first grant, we were turned down.
Our little mini grant.
The mini grant, we were turned down. However, there was this opportunity that we got to meet with SBDC, and they were we met confidentially on occasions, like about 6 months we met, and during those meetings we talked about how the board needs to play a big role in what we're doing. and how the staff needs to come together and make sure that everything is organized. So he led us, George Getson, I should say.
Right here, we're going to hear from him in a second.
He led us through a process that we did not know much about, which helped us to grow in the point where we even talked about concession and about concession. So what we talked about were how to get us out there, how to brand us, how to change our website to make it more friendly so people can be traffic can be driven to us through the website. So it was very important for us for he and I to meet, and for us to write things down, for him to meet our board, for him to give me the pointers that I needed in order to move to the next level of our operations through running a TIL.
And I think the capacity build, the confidentiality seems important for those nonprofits out there that are afraid that if a funder is giving them an opportunity to do capacity building, they need to know that we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. George, when you don't tell us anything until it's all over that you help them.
That's correct.
So tell us what you do.
And again, as she mentioned, some of the things that we talked about behind closed doors. Okay, let's lay it all on the table, and it was a beginning of developing a relationship. I think that's the key thing. And then once the not-for-profit knows that they've got a voice, they've got an ear that can listen to some of their challenges that they may not be comfortable with letting their funders know, then we walk them through the strategies of how do you address those challenges. And I will say, to Ms. Jackie's credit, the information that we provide with what you should do and how you should, sort of maneuver and address the certain challenges, she actually took the advice, not just from myself, but also from other staff and other consultants with SBDC, and she implemented them. And we love to see that. And because of her implementation, in particular, doing some community events and actually engaging the board's members to be a part of those photo ops, and it was amazing. And so we see that as a basically helping her shine, because we know that she and other nonprofits that we work with have services that they provide to children. And at the end of the day, it's also about the families and the parents that it's impact. So we're here and committed to being that cheerleader for those nonprofits.
Excellent. Peter, your work also is confidential, and you start out and then give them what they need, right? Talk a little about that.
I think it might be useful to explain how our consultants work through our own experience. Impact Broward has been around since 1965, and we've helped children achieve in schools. We've helped seniors who are struggling have some companionship, veterans succeed as they transition to civilian life, and help nonprofits innovate. But given that broad mission, we were struggling with our own message, our own marketing message. So we relied on our ESC consultants, these volunteer consultants that came in and conducted a focus group with partners out in the community. In fact, CSC was one of those partners that participated, thank you. And the result of that 4-month effort was that we have a new strategic plan, a new marketing plan around how we communicate our efforts, as well as identify new needs. And we're launching, as a matter of fact, Impact Consulting, which recognizes that it's not just about one-on-one private consults over a course of 6 months, but also workshops, seminars, and sort of risk management kits, pre-audit preparations, or how to start up a nonprofit, all of which we'll be launching thanks to the ongoing hand-holding, if you will, of our expert consultants who are utterly professional, very experienced, and are looking to give back through volunteerism.
And that marketing is so interesting because just that name change actually better describes what you're talking about doing. And I think that then leads to some of Rachel's work, is that now you've got your name, now you know what you're doing, you're clear, but you need that funding to make it all work.
Absolutely. Network for Good just last year surveyed 10,000 nonprofits to ask, what's your number one need in terms of capacity building? And top on the list was assistance with fundraising, because that's the greatest challenge. Peter and I were just talking about this earlier. How do you sustain that mission and grow your staff when you don't have a stable revenue stream coming in? So we have an interesting approach to that, largely because we want to serve a wide range of nonprofits in every niche of services, but also because we realize that many nonprofits are operating in under-resourced communities. So we're thinking of nonprofits in rural areas or in states that don't have the pool of fundraising consultants. So we literally use a Match.com-like process. A nonprofit fills out a profile with certain information about them, and we match them against a pool of consultants and choose 3 that are a good fit on paper. And over the next 12 months, that consultant meets twice a month with the nonprofit staff to work on fundraising and development. A lot of donor acquisition strategies, a lot of donor retention strategies. How do we keep the donors we have and get them to give more? And the net result is that most of our customers land up increasing individual giving by about 50% and overall revenue by about 27% over the course of a year.
Rachel, we're a client, actually, of Network for Good, and it's amazing the technology that you have, because it doesn't only allow you to identify your existing donors, but also through proprietary and publicly available information, their wealth indicators, their propensity to give. The data is so transparent and so helpful to any nonprofit that we're huge fans of Network for Good. We went from spreadsheets to an amazing technology platform, so thank you.
I find it interesting that, Rachel mentioned most not-for-profits says, fundraising, money, basically, and the same similarity with for-profit companies. We're always contacted by companies who need access to capital. So hence, because of that, we as well look for those resources, banks and other resources that can come to the table and provide the need, if you will, for the monies for fundraising as well as for the access to capital. To the point of not-for-profits and for-profits, pretty much they both are businesses. They both need capital. One maybe receives it from donors and grants, et cetera, versus the for-profit in terms of, going to banks and investors.
And that's, so hugely important, because I think the people hear nonprofit and they think volunteers who are all just doing this out of the goodness of their heart, and they shouldn't get paid or they don't get paid or whatever. But it is a business.
Right.
In fact, it employs thousands and thousands of people in the Broward County alone.
That's right.
And so people do need to get paid. They are serving their county or their community. They do it with a lot of goodwill and good heart. But people need to be paid. They need to put food on their own tables. So I love that analogy. We are going to run out of time really soon. The time flies by so fast. And George, I want you to talk a little bit about what's unique about our SBDC here for others who might not be familiar with it.
The uniqueness that the SBDC here in Fort Lauderdale, as opposed to those in other parts of the country, we also have a creative entrepreneur development program. So we work with the creative industry, those nonprofits and even individual artists that are actually looking to take their art business, if you will, or their nonprofit on the creative side to another level. Rafael Cruz, our regional director, he and I actually are faculty members in a program through Broward County Cultural Division, a program called the Artists as Entrepreneur Institute. So for the past 10 years, he and I have been faculty members to over 700 artists and art organizations, nonprofits, to help them think like business people.
Great. Any last comments? Rachel?
I think you're absolutely right. The nonprofits that are most successful are those that employ the best practices in business to their mission. And so here at Network for Good, that's really what we aim to do, to teach them how to use the best that's out there and think like business people with a nonprofit heart.
Beautiful. Ms. Jackie, what would you tell your other nonprofits?
Well, I think what you've said, it makes so much sense. We're out here to do the work from our heart. I mean, it does come from our heart, but, we do expect to be paid. we don't make a lot of money, but it's out there for us to do that. And the importance of our mission is to make sure that our youth are safe and that they are able to integrate into the community where they choose to live. It's very important for our youth to become strong adults so that they can make a difference in the communities that they serve.
Beautiful. Peter, you get the last 30 seconds.
Well, at Impact Broward, we're solving community problems with volunteers, but we can't do it alone. And I think what this demonstrates is partnerships, whether it be through fundraising partnerships, collaborative agreements, working to solve a problem together is critically important in the capacity building space. So we're just excited to be a part of it, and thank you so much for having us.
Well, thank all of you. This was really informative and I think will be very helpful to the community. And thank you all for what you do every day, because I see the value of the nonprofit community and the changes that it's making in the lives of our children and families every day. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Officially, I want to thank George Gadsden, Rachel Ramjitan, Jacqueline Reed, and Peter Caldes for talking to us about the value of building agency capacity, as well as Marie, Ms. Peaches Huntley, Patricia Zeiler, and Iola Smith for helping us understand the challenges faced by smaller organizations so that they can also thrive and be successful in their mission. I've been your host, Cindy Arenberg Seltzer. For this or any other episode of Future First, Focus on Broward's Children, go to our website, www.cscbroward.org, where you can access our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and remember to join us next time on Future First, Focus on Broward's Children.